go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to be able to gather this afternoon in this virtual space on Zoom. At the outset of the program, when we communicated with you, we said we wanted to get your feedback and hear from you all, and it's been really helpful to hear the questions that are on your mind to help us better understand how the program is going so far, and also areas where we can improve. So we're happy to have everyone here this afternoon. You may be wondering why we're using Zoom instead of Google Meet, which is what the students and the teachers are using. And to answer that question just at the outset, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Technology and Curriculum Initiatives, Mr. Brian Burkhart. So Brian, can you let everyone know?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So real quick, Pingry does have a Zoom account that we use for functions just like this one, where we're trying to deliver something to a lot of people at once. But however, for day-to-day classes, as you may have noticed with your students at home, we insist that everyone use Google Meet. We do this for a number of reasons, but the short version is that everyone already has Google. Our faculty and our students are comfortable within the Google environment. And also Google provides a level of security and privacy that other tools do not. And security, honestly, is the most important thing for us in thinking about any interaction that's taking place with students. So if you want to read a little bit more about the details of that, though, you can go to the FAQ on the remote learning webpage and read more.
So I'll just give you a little overview of how this session is going to work. Due to the size of the gathering, and by look of the count, we have over 100 participants this afternoon, and also the volume of questions that were submitted, we had over 80 questions submitted. There's not going to be an opportunity for two-way conversation in this meeting. However, there is an opportunity for you to participate live with the Q&A box that you'll see located at the bottom of your screen if you're on a computer. If you're on a mobile device, you're going to need to tap the mobile device to see the Q&A box. And so as we get going and start answering some of the high-level thematic questions, because what we did is we took the questions and grouped them into themes so that we could address them. Feel free to ask clarifying or follow-up questions during the course of the conversation, and we'll jump in and address those as we're going. And also in the Q&A box, David Fahey and Dale Seabury, two members of the COVID-19 task force, will be in there as well, helping to answer your questions as we go along. So we look forward to a good afternoon of conversation with you all, and we'll go ahead and begin. And so the first question, and this is a question, actually before we do that, I should introduce Delvin Dinkins, our assistant head of school at Basking Ridge, and Ananya Chatterjee, our upper school director at Basking Ridge. Sorry for the quick oversight. Obviously, they're key people this afternoon. But the first question that we had that really cut across all three divisions is how is our remote learning program delivering on our mission at Pingry? And I would say, at the beginning, at the outset, when we started defining how we wanted to approach remote learning at Pingry, we started with the mission, and we held the mission up as what is the optimal model that we could design and put in place, knowing that we can't replicate the school day. How could we redesign the experience for students and for faculty to live out our mission? And our mission, there are three significant pieces of it: intellectual exploration, individual growth, and social responsibility. So thinking about the remote learning model, it combines synchronous or real-time sessions, asynchronous, self-paced learning, and then offline experiences as well. And the triad of those three together, we felt would be the best way for kids to pursue intellectual exploration. And this environment for everyone is also challenging individual growth. Students are learning to manage time in a different way. And of course, when they get ready to go off to college campuses, they're going to have a lot of hours in the day that they're going to need to navigate and figure out how to structure. And two of the bedrocks of school that we rely on, structure and social connection, have kind of been upended at the moment. But we see that as an opportunity for kids to help redefine the structure of the day in partnership with their teachers, and also to build different and new and unique social connections on different platforms. And we're already seeing that, and you'll hear more about that in the conversation. And then in terms of the social responsibility piece, early on we formed a community well-being collaborative that Dr. Dinkins is chairing, and that group includes upper school students, faculty, staff, administrators, and their charge is really to think about how can we maintain and help the community flourish during this time of crisis in different ways of outreach and building social connection throughout. And then lastly, a big part of our mission is striving for personal and academic excellence within an ethical framework. And we're living in new spaces, and we're going to have to define the framework of what is right and what is good behavior in there. And so I had the chance to meet early on with Emily Sanchez and Brian Lee. Emily is the chair of the honor board, and Brian is the head of the student government. And a piece of that conversation centered around how can we manage an ethical environment, given the world we're living in, and the Honor Board doesn't have a lot of precedent in the area of online engagement. So we're going to be thinking about that. They're already proactively thinking about that. The deans have communicated out to the students, as have the teachers, in terms of what are the expectations of how we're going to engage and communicate in this environment. So the mission is very front and center for us. It's something that we think about all the time as we're evolving. And one of the things that's going to be critical in this program is to be adaptable and flexible, because things are changing quickly. We're learning a lot quickly, and we've built in mechanisms to get feedback so that we can make adjustments. So I want to move on to the next question, and this was from a Form 6 parent, and it's about the academic schedule for students. How many hours are students expected to be online, and are they following their school schedules, including a lunch break? And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Upper School Director Ananya Chatterjee. Ananya?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I wish I could see all of you, but okay, so the students are expected to be going through their academic day as they were in school, except for the fact that their classes shouldn't be running for 65 minutes, and the science classes are certainly not running for 90 minutes as they usually do. So the classes will start at the same times, which are 8:30, 10:30. We've moved our lunch to between the 10:30 class and the noon class. So the third class of the day is always at 12:10, and the last class of the day is at 1:45. So the teachers are asked to run 45-minute classes if they are doing an actual virtual session. And there have been some hiccups sometimes, right? Sometimes Schoology has gone out in the middle of a class and people thought they were going to have a 45-minute class and it turned into a 20-minute class. So students are going to be following the actual schedule for now. The one thing that you're probably going to hear me and others say a lot is, when we do things in the building, we know how to do them. We know what's tried and true, and we know what works and doesn't work. We don't know about this. So we're going to try this for now, and it doesn't mean that in 2 weeks we won't modify that schedule or alter it, but for right now, we're going to keep with the upper school schedule as it stands. So students are expected to be online really in the amount of time that it would take them to complete 4 classes. And that might be 4 45-minute sessions. Sometimes people are not holding virtual classes and they're asking students to do work in place of that. We are pushing hard for faculty to either run a virtual class with a small homework assignment, 15 to 20 minutes, or to give asynchronous work that can be completed during the class period. So we're trying not to have work during the class period and then massive homework assignments. We're trying to ease into all of this.
And I would just add on to that, that it's in an online environment, you can't replicate the physical environment, but there are some pretty amazing and interesting opportunities that you can leverage in an online environment in different ways and using different platforms. And kids are already starting to engage in different ways. Even during the course of a Google Meet classroom of 45 minutes, kids are breaking into small groups, coming back together. The teacher is chunking a material in 6 or 7 minute segments, then breaking students out, using a Google document live or the Schoology discussion forum in parallel with that. So there are a lot of tools to make the class really dynamic, and our teachers are jumping into it, and the students are as well. So Ananya, one of the things that's been top of mind for a lot of parents as we've shifted, and this probably goes to the comment that I made at the beginning around an ethical framework as we move into this environment, how is testing going to work in the different classes, given that obviously we're in a remote learning environment?
So testing is going to vary greatly. I'm going to speak from my perspective for a moment. So I teach a senior calculus class, and my standard assessment, besides giving projects from time to time, is an in-class quiz. So I need to rethink that completely, right? There's no in-class. I'm not going to give him 45-minute timed assessment in this capacity. So I have to be really creative. So what's happening is we have provided our faculty with a great deal of flexibility. One of the things we've learned from our friends in the West Coast is that having all faculty teach 45 minutes virtually every day or multiple times a week is exhausting for the students. So what we've said to our faculty is, do what you'd like and what works for you for right now in class. For some people, that is going to be classes that are like this, 45 minutes, we're meeting on Google Meet and we move forward. For other people, they're gonna say, here, do a couple of reading assignments and I'll see you next week. We'll get together to discuss. The same thing is gonna be asked of for assessments. So for some people, they're going to have longer term assessments, right? Read Beloved, and then answer a few reading questions, and then we're going to meet as a class, and then we're going to work on an essay for a week on your own. For other people, that's going to be, hey, I'm going to give you a short 20-minute reading quiz in class, virtually, on Monday at 8:30. There will be such a wide range of what these assessments are going to look like, and then subsequently what those rubrics are, because we have to change those as well. So it's going to be a totally mixed bag. And it's actually, assessment is one of the pieces that I'm most excited to see, because I think people who have not done projects before are going to do projects. People who have not assigned group assignments for students. I have never really asked for students to do homework in groups for a grade, but I'm probably going to do that. I think that changing things up and coming up with very different ways of assessment is what a lot of this is about, because it's one thing to run class, it's another thing to assess the students.
So Nanya, one of the things I heard you emphasize was flexibility and also variability. And one of the questions that's on the minds of some parents is students who have certain sections of the same subject. Some are having virtual meetings, and then some are using asynchronous learning. Can you sort of clarify that and help parents understand that?
Absolutely. I think this is a really good question. What's interesting is we have many students who are having almost all virtual classes. And then we have other students who are having a lot of asynchronous classes. And some students like both. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to even that out. We want faculty to start with what is best for them, right? We're looking at bandwidth issues in people's classroom, in people's homes. We're looking at people trying to juggle family needs. We're looking at barking dogs and times to walk the dog. Like, we have so many things that we have to do at home as parents. We all know this. So right now we've asked faculty, do what works for you. And then within departments, we're going to ask people to get together and talk about what's working for them. And so right now, if we have 10 sections of History 9, some of the History 9 teachers are assigning reading and doing asynchronous work. Some of them are having live classes, and some of them are doing a mix. I think that as the weeks pass, we will see that come together a little bit differently, because that History 9 team is going to get together and they're going to say, hey, here's what's working well with the students. We'll also at that point have feedback from the students. So we are going to survey the kids. And when that survey comes out, we definitely want students to take part in it. So please encourage your children to provide that feedback, because we will use it to make change in the future. That's how we're going to know how to make change.
So the next question sort of picks up a little bit on some of the things you just mentioned, but are the children or the students receiving the same level of instruction in this new environment? And before you answer, I just like to flip that a little bit and think about it from student learning, and instruction and learning and how the students are engaging in learning. And there's going to be variable or different modes of instruction that will happen. Can you sort of speak to the different levels of instruction and ways the teacher, which you've talked a little bit about, but wondering, is it going to be the same as we would have in a physical classroom at Pingry on a daily basis?
I don't think we can replicate a human classroom. I think there's truth in that. But it doesn't mean, in our opinion, that learning can't be measured successfully using a different scale. The scale we know is the scale that we have in a classroom, right? You can feel whether or not the students are understanding you. I went through a math problem this morning and I could not feel from the students how they were doing, right? I couldn't sense that. So I had to ask them each directly, how are you feeling about this? But there is something having to do with body language that you can't pick up on here. And we are only initially beginning to be trained in this. So, but student learning in the end is still student learning. So our hope is that regardless, we're going to have multiple different types of instruction that are going on. The delivery and the methods are going to be very different. And yet our hope and our expectation is that students are still learning, and they will learn, and they'll also learn about themselves and how they learn best. What's very interesting is talking to the students. There are lots of students who are enjoying this because they feel like, oh, I can pace myself, and I can take little chunks, and I can talk with my friends, and I can figure this out on my own, and I'm understanding it and getting it. And then there are others who are feeling like, oh, this is exhausting. I need my teacher in front of me. But we're hoping to make a little bit of progress in each course, in each subject area, week by week.
And I just add to that by reminding, I remind myself and I reminded my advisees this morning when I met with them that this is an emergency remote teaching situation, not just online teaching. And I think this important distinction there, because when you're reverse engineering an entire school program, you have to imagine that the look and feel of that will be different. And so I think it's important to always be clear that we're functioning in an emergency and that these are not normal teaching and learning conditions. And so it's sort of, I think, incumbent upon us to remember that there's no real playbook for how to do this. And so I think as our teachers continue to work together, collaborating on best practices, that you'll see the experience of learning kind of blossom. But it really will be about making decisions quickly and with limited information, but also establishing and deepening those relationships with students is one of our primary goals, in addition to trying to continue with the academic program.
If I may add one small thing here, one of the things that we are most lucky in that I think of every time I sort of look at this expanse of what we're doing, we are very, very, very fortunate in that we can alter our curriculum for next year based on what happened this year, right? And I'm just gonna use, I'll use Chem 1 and Bio 1 right now. So our 9th graders are in Bio 1, right? All of them. If our instruction is not 100%, the Bio 2 teachers know that. So they can adjust their Bio 2 curriculum because they know that Bio 1 wasn't 100%, maybe it was 80% this year, given our circumstances. We are very fortunate in that we can alter next year, right? All of the History 10 teachers next year will know that the second half of History 9 was done through remote learning. There are other environments in which that's not the case. You have to get through the content. There's no question. If you don't get through the content, you're suffering the following year. So we are in the enviable position that everyone next year knows what the kids this year went through.
I would just add too, I was talking to one of our teachers who shared an interesting perspective about the Google Meet classroom, and he was having a class discussion in the environment. And one of the things that he noticed and really appreciated, and actually the students have noticed, is the opportunity to back channel during a Google Meet classroom. And back channeling means that using the chat feature to have additional questions and commentary happening while there's a live conversation going, and then also using a Google document as well, so that in some ways there's a way to triple the amount of voices that can be engaging in a discussion at any given point. So that's just a reminder to all of you to use that Q&A box at the bottom, because that is a way to back channel during this conversation and bring ideas and topics that you'd like us to further address. The next question is from a Form 4 parent, and this is around community engagement. May I ask for a community-wide engagement? I would love to see my son do something as a Pingry community, even if it's online. Ananya and Delvin, can you both address this?
So the deans have been working with student government on a couple of things already, and then we have more planned in the next coming weeks. You may have heard about the talent show that we are taking remotely. Delvin, did you want to add more to sort of the overall community feel?
Sure, yeah. We have a community well-being collaborative, and there are student members of that collaborative, and we're working together to generate some next steps for how to keep the big C in community. And so working together with counselors and deans, we've generated a list, a pretty deep laundry list of items that we'd like to implement. So right now we're exploring the best ways to do that, but those items range from community engagement opportunities with resources in the community to be able to contribute given this crisis, to ones that will enhance the student experience, because I think we realize more and more that the school life component is very difficult to replicate. And so we're looking at trying to tap clubs, student leaders, and other resources in the community that will sort of bring that sense of spirit to this online. And so please be on the lookout for additional work. I know that we'll have soon a webpage speaking directly to some of the activities and initiatives, and we'll be expecting to tap a number of students to help out with a lot of that.
And I would just add, in the remote learning environment, even in the classroom context, it's sort of the balance of content and connection, right? And it's figuring out how to leverage the platform to build and sustain that connection, which is such an important part of the classroom experience, while students also advance in terms of content understanding. So there's a lot of opportunity for us there. The next question is about athletic activities. And this is a Form 4 parent. Athletic coaches have sent recommended workouts. Will it be possible to incorporate a group activity like yoga, stretching, nutrition, so high schoolers can be more mindful of their physical condition at this time? Ananya?
Yes, and it's happening soon. So stay tuned, sooner than you think. We do have strength and conditioning hours that are available. So anyone who wants to connect with our strength and conditioning staff is absolutely able to do that. And Doug Scott and his team over at the BAC, they have been getting a lot of students checking in with them, and they've been sharing home workouts that the kids can do. Absolutely, but if you stay tuned, very shortly the students will get some information about things like yoga that they can do en masse together with one another.
And we have also heard some stories of kids getting together for some high intensity workouts in a virtual environment, led by one of our coaches. And so there's going to be lots of ways to engage that. And I guess, for you as parents at home, one of the things to remind students is as they're on screens, to make sure that they do take breaks, get outside, have some exercise, whether it's walking around. There was an article just the other day in the Washington Post about teenagers and how much they're actually starting to enjoy walking without their phones as a way to have a break. So that might be a nice opportunity as well to take a family walk to break things up. The next question is from a Form 5 parent, and it's about teachers and office hours. Will office hours continue, because that's such an important part of the Pingry experience, particularly in the upper school, to foster those relationships between students and teachers. Nanya, can you talk about office hours?
Yeah, office hours are absolutely one of the things that is glorious about office hours with upper school students and faculty is the kids see their teachers all the time, right? It's not just only during CP. They have flex time, they have free periods, they have it all, and they're very used to having their teachers accessible. So we want to keep that. We want to keep that going. We have told the students and we have told the teachers, do it. You can have one-on-one sessions, you can have group sessions, you can say, oh, I'm going to be available during CP, you can pop into my Google Meet, you can email me, we can set up a time. Today, after my math class, I had a number of students who said, hey, I tried the problem you assigned for homework, and did I do it correctly? And I hopped online with one of them. It's open, and I think you will find that if students reach out for help, just like they always have, faculty will be very quick to respond and say, here's when I'm available. Because yeah, teachers are they've either said, sure, flex periods and CP work for me, and then others are saying, that doesn't work, but 2 to 4 every day or 2 to 4 every other day works, and they'll outline those with the individual classes.
One of the other advantages to the remote learning environment, and particularly online forums like Schoology has a discussion forum, and students sometimes, if they can't reach the teacher, will pose a question to the group in the discussion forum, say, hey, I couldn't figure out this problem, and then 3 or 4 peers will jump and say, oh, well, here's how I approached it. So you have some peer-to-peer dialogue happening that way to help each other in addition to seeing teachers. So you encourage your students to take advantage of those forums as well. What about, beyond the teacher check-ins? And Anya, can you talk about advisory and how that's going to work, particularly with the opportunity maybe for students to have one-on-one check-ins with their advisors?
Yeah, so we've done 1 week of advisory, and in fact, so we did a Tuesday for 9th and 10th grade and Thursday for 11th and 12th. What I discovered is that many advisors reached out to their advisees last week or over spring break just to check in. I think that's very much natural because people are worried about how the kids are doing. So yeah, individual advisory check-ins is going to be recommended to our advisors as we move forward. And on that end too, if a student needs anything, I would really, at this time, really ask them to reach out to their advisor quickly, because the response time with faculty and advisors right now is super high. People are on their computers all the time and they want to be there for the kids. And I'm not certainly saying that will change, but I think that students will find that if they need anything, they're going to have people immediately able to help them.
We had a question in the Q&A box just about the teacher training and the use of the video conferencing tools. and how we're helping to coach and advise teachers to do that. And so we've had a lot of full effort, to train the teachers in that area using Google Meet. I'm going to let Brian talk about it in just a second. One of the things, though, there's an organization called One Schoolhouse, and they actually run online classes for independent schools across the country. And in their methodology, they say it takes up to 6 months to train an independent school teacher how to fully leverage an online environment. And of course, we had 2 days to do that before we launched. But I'll let Brian speak to some of the professional development we've been doing and have the ongoing support that we're providing to teachers within the actual classroom environment. So Brian, you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure, definitely. As Matt just alluded to, we offered a good deal of professional development opportunities those first few days for teachers that were very well attended, specifically on using Google Meet. We keep offering those on a pretty much daily basis. We're having constant one-on-one check-ins with teachers. We come into classes when the teachers invite us. We don't necessarily, we don't want to be big brother, so we don't necessarily jump into them unless the teacher wants us there. But I'd say that this is an evolving situation, right? Every teacher is comfortable to a certain degree. But when they reach out to our team, we give them a list of sessions that we're holding each day. And we also give them a list of one-on-one times that they can schedule with either me or a member of my team to kind of talk through what a Google Meet would look like. And so I think each teacher is kind of approaching it at their own speed. But yes, we're having those conversations every single day.
And I would just add that we're also having virtual appy hours for the faculty. And during that time, it's after school, teachers are sharing, hey, this worked, this was great today, and they'll post some samples of what they've done. So there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning because, and obviously at the departmental level, within the department and across courses, people are exchanging ideas daily as the day is going on about something that worked really well. So that, they're learning quickly in that way. So one of the questions, Ananya, that's come up is a little bit of frustration that not all the teachers are posting their assignments consistently in Schoology. And I was wondering if you could speak to that just to provide some clarity.
Sure. So Schoology, yeah, that I can see as a frustration. So Schoology is our required platform for posting of assignments. That doesn't necessarily mean that students are required to keep their grade books on Schoology for students to see. Students should be able to talk to their teachers at any point about their grades, but not all teachers use the gradebook function in Schoology, although many do. But in terms of posting assignments, that has been a requirement for it's not just through remote learning, it's well before that and before this school year. So if your students have teachers who are not posting assignments on Schoology, I'd need to know about that. So please send them my way because that is absolutely a requirement.
I just want to call out another question that popped into the box about are teachers getting enough encouragement and positive recognition on personal levels for the extensive efforts they must be putting into this massive shift. It is a massive shift for the faculty. And I have to say, from my vantage point as the head, it has been remarkable to see the energy that the faculty have used to jump into this endeavor, the learning that they've engaged in, the eagerness, the questions. I think, as Brian alluded, the professional development was really encouraging and positive. We got really good feedback from the faculty and the ongoing support mechanisms that we're giving them. And it's hard. It's a new way of teaching, but there's also some pretty cool opportunities that teachers are starting to uncover and unearth as they step in each day to see really what the possibilities are in this environment. But as Delvin referenced earlier, the Community Wellbeing Collaborative has a specific focus to think about supporting and encouraging faculty as we move forward, but also students and families as well in our community. But that's definitely top of mind for us because we want to make sure the faculty feel supported as they're moving through this endeavor. Brian, you want to add to that?
I was going to add to it, Brian.
Delvin, yeah, go ahead, guys.
Go ahead.
I'll go. I just want to add to that by saying that we have a mechanism where we're conducting daily outreach to teachers just to make sure that they're hearing from us and that they're taking care of themselves and to make sure that they are in fact receiving the encouragement and the positive recognition because this is a lot. And as I mentioned before, reverse engineering an entire course on the fly requires a Herculean effort. So I think we are making our way to having all faculty members be recognized for this effort.
Brian, you want to add to that?
Yeah, actually, it's a slightly different direction. I just wanted to tack on a question came in about students in getting tech support in all of this. And so I did want to add that the same help desk support that we offer to our faculty is open to our students. So students should have received this via email, but just so that everyone knows, if they email techhelp@pingry.org, someone from my team will get back to them as quick as possible.
So Nanya, a big top of mind question for lots of people, and I know we've been talking about it internally for a while, is pass-fail. And how are we thinking about grading? And since we're staying with the traditional grading model, how have rubrics been adjusted, or how is the faculty thinking about the grading model as we move into this?
Yeah, so I know that we're getting close on time, but I do want to touch on this grading topic. The thing that we want to keep in mind is that students had put in work and they had received a semester 1 grade. On the transcript at the end of the year, the grade that goes on the transcript that eventually is your permanent transcript that's, goes to colleges, etc., there's only a year-end grade. So that year-end grade is an average of the first semester and the second semester. And for the most part, most of our students do better second semester than they do first semester. They pick up steam, they get their sea legs going, they know exactly what they're doing, and that second semester shows improvement, and hence those year-end averages on the transcript are better than first semester grades. So what we've decided to do is we're going to keep going with grading. The rubrics for assessments, and as we talked about before, assessments are going to be different than they have been in the past. So those rubrics are going to be different, and it's up to the faculty to explain for each assessment, this is how this rubric is going to work. We cannot grade an online quiz the same way we would have graded an in-class quiz, right? And I'm just using the most simple example there. But these rubrics are going to change, the assessments are going to change, and that way we can keep grading going so that we can allow for students to show that improvement that they had been working so hard second semester to manage and succeed with.
Thanks, Amanda. Delvin, you want to add?
Yeah, I would just add to that by, we're really taking a posture of trying to pause, listen, reflect, and learn. Not only about sort of remote learning, this entire plan, but also within the instructional realm of things. So I think part of this would be really trying to blaze ahead, but at the same time pausing and reflecting on lessons learned, not only as lessons learned with respect to instruction, but also lessons learned with respect to remote learning. So you can expect that this will be an iterative process and that we're trying to be flexible and certainly extending to students the benefit of the doubt to the extent practicable.
So a question popped into the box, will we be doing more of these? And the answer is yes, because we want to obviously continue to have feedback mechanisms and also hear from your questions. And this is a new piece of software that we're using, and a new platform for us. So we want to learn how to use it most effectively. This was our first endeavor with you, and we hope that you enjoyed this afternoon. We certainly valued hearing the questions and the feedback, and more to come from all of us, and we wish you all well, and that hope that all your families are safe and healthy through this time. And of course, all of us are really, really bummed that we can't see your students in person at school every day, and of course you all as well. So take good care, and you'll be hearing from us more again soon. Thanks, everybody.